everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Marvel Legends King in Black 2-pack KNULL and Venom. This is looking to be a great set, what more can I say? This was one that really caught my eye, specifically would be the KNULL figure, but I'm a massive fan of the movie Venom mold, so to see it this time round done in a more comic accurate looking deco with those crazy looking bat wings, this really was a no-brainer. I knew I had to pick this up. Now as we take a look here at the packaging, this is Hasbro's all new plastic free attempt, and trust me, I definitely have quite a few words to say about this later on in the video in regards to quality control, but we do get some decent CG renders here at the front, some awesome artwork here on the side, more product shots at the back showcasing some of the accessories, as well as some of the original CG renders that I believe we saw when this was first announced, and here at the top we do get the Spider-Man 60th anniversary logo. So with all that being said, let's get these out of the packaging and see how they shape up in hand. And we may as well kickstart this review off by taking a look here at Venom. Now for the vast majority of this video, I'll actually be holding him just as the wings are way too big, and at least on my review surface he sadly doesn't stand up all that great, but the attention to detail for the most part on this guy is really impressive. Now this does utilize that 2018 Venom body mold, so for those of you who are a fan of that, you're really going to love what they've done here. I love the classic comic book style detailing that we've now got going on for the torso, and it definitely works on this design, so I'm hoping we can see this actually implemented into the Venom 3 movie. But the paintwork across the board for this looks to be pretty nicely done, and the texture detail for the main body looks awesome. You can see all of the various different symbiotic strands. We've got some veining. I like the musculature detail. Overall it's just a stunning looking mold, just as great as on the original release, and even as we come down here to the legs, I think overall this looks pretty sweet. Now one thing that I am noticing, it was something that didn't bother me previously, but considering we're seeing it more and more with newer figures, is the arms. These do actually have the pins. Now as I said, these didn't bother me beforehand, but they do look slightly unsightly here on this figure, just as I've become accustomed to actually seeing these completely abolished with some of the newer releases. So it would have been cool had they gone back and maybe refined the sculpt a little bit, but overall definitely looking sweet. As we come around here to the back, we get some really nice detail, and the paintwork on this also looks great. I'll be sure to detach the wings in just a second so that we can just focus on the Venom figure himself in more detail. But yeah, he does come with these massive wings. These are completely brand new and they are enormous, a lot bigger than I was expecting. I really love all of these subtle rips and tears that we've got here for the wings, and I think the texture detail across the board for these looks great, as so does the paint. And as we come around here to the back, you can see an almost leathery texture detail, which overall I just think makes them look super realistic. And we also do get two brand new head sculpts with this guy. So here is a more generic looking one, is merely just him giving us a sinister grin or smile. I think the teeth detailing looks nice. The eyes have actually been painted very nicely, which is something that sadly cannot be said for the alternate head sculpt, and from pretty much every single angle this is looking to be nicely done. Now as far as articulation goes, the head can look up roughly to that far, down it can tilt side to side, as well as rotate left to right. We sadly don't get any butterfly joints here at the shoulders, but these can soft ratchet up and down, as well as out to the sides. Full rotation here at the bicep, a double joint at the elbow. The wrist can rotate the full 360, as well as hinge back and forth, and he also does have some nice white paint detailing here on the back of the hand, which overall doesn't look too bad at all. And then as we come here to the torso, I think this was the original figure's major selling point, and it's no different here for this figure. He does have a ball jointed upper diaphragm, so this does allow him to rotate the full 360, crunch forwards, back and side to side. And in addition to that, we also do get a proper ab crunch, so when you utilize both of them together, it really does allow for a fantastic range of motion. And overall I think this is by far one of the coolest bodies that I've seen the Marvel Legends team produce in quite some time. Here for the hips, these can kick forwards to that far, back to that far, as well as out to the sides. We do get a rotation as well as a 90-degree bend here at the knee. And finally, as we come down here to the feet, these can pivot forwards and backwards, as well as rock side to side. And just to give you guys a close-up on how they're looking, I do believe these also are a carryover from that original 2018 Venom. So in all, a very nice figure just on his own, but here with the wings, these also do add an additional layer of epicness to this guy, and these are actually also pretty nicely posable, so they can rotate left to right, as well as can hinge back and forth, so you can definitely get some dynamic poses out of them. And they can also hinge upwards and down, although I definitely wouldn't push them past this stopping point, as you will actually cause them to detach. They really aren't held on that well, which is unfortunate. I would have liked to have been able to have compressed them ever so slightly more, but still definitely a pretty cool looking figure. They are detachable, so we can simply just pop them out of their ball joints, so just remove them like that, and we can take a closer look here at that logo detail, which looks pretty nicely done. Accessory wise, in addition to this more neutral head, we do actually get one with the tongue. Now sadly for me, this is where I've had a massive QC blunder. They haven't painted one of the eyes, which is super unfortunate, and considering that we're dealing with a closed box, we're no longer able to actually check the quality of these figures. Now I do believe that this pack specifically is an exclusive, so I wouldn't be able to find this at retail even if I wanted to, but considering that the vast majority of these figures are going to be put in these closed boxes, even at mass retail, I do think this is going to be a massive problem going forward. And if we're seeing this type of issue on an exclusive £75 box set, then sadly the regular singular releases are definitely going to be cursed with this issue as well. This is really not on at all, especially considering Hasbro are continuously increasing the prices, but it does appear as if though their quality control is decreasing rather rapidly. But the detail on this would be nicely done, at least here from this side. It looks awesome. I love the gum detail that we've got here. The teeth also look fantastic, and the tongue looks wicked. It is such a shame that it is this head sculpt in particular as well, considering that this would be the one that I would choose to display on the figure, and it's such a shame. So I am hoping that Hasbro customer service can take care of this, but overall it does look good, especially if this eye was painted. And just to showcase how it does look when put on the body, as you guys can see, definitely looking awesome, especially here from the side perspective with that eye fully painted. Now he also includes an interchangeable pair of fists. I believe these are exactly the same as the ones that we saw with the original movie Venom, so these are just closed fists with some nice white detailing here on the back, and these can be very easily inserted onto the figure. So we simply pop them on just like that, and that is the difference between the open hand and of course the closed hand. Shifting gears, here we have the King in Black himself, KNULL, the god of the symbiotes, and overall this guy looks fantastic. Definitely the highlight out of the set, I know for many, despite that Venom being awesome. This is a complete brand new sculpt, and as I mentioned in the opening segment of the video, I believe it's the first time that we're ever actually seeing a Marvel Legends release for this character, and I think it's turned out great. They definitely have knocked it out of the park where this guy's concerned. Now as we take a look here at the details, this also is one of two interchangeable head sculpts, but I think this is my preferred one. I really love how the teeth are showing. That looks so cool, and unlike Venom, this figure actually doesn't have any QC issues, which of course is what we should expect. But the face is a slightly lighter shade of grey when in comparison here to the hair. I do apologise that the review station is slightly blowing it out, but as you guys can see, that hair sculpt just looks so cool, and he looks pretty dynamic just standing there, not even in any type of fancy pose. He just commands so much shelf presence, and I think they did such a nice job where the sculpt work is concerned. You can see all of the strands of hair here at the back. I think the armour looks wicked, so here for the chest plate you can see how we've got this really awesome symbiotic logo slap bang in the center, and the red paint apps also look really nicely done. We get these massive shoulder pads which have got various different dings and dangs in the actual sculpt to make them look as if though they've been battered and worn in battle, and overall I just think this guy looks so nicely done. You can see more of that weathering effect here to the back plate. I really like the bandages that we've got wrapping around the arms and how they are actually a different color when in comparison to just the regular bicep and forearms, and the paintwork for these also looks awesome. Even as we actually take this shoulder piece up, they have completely painted that shoulder as well. So overall, definitely a fantastic looking figure, and this is indeed one of the releases which has the pinless text, so he just looks super clean and really streamlined. I love the finger sculpt. You can see here these look so cool. We've got the fingernails there. I love how that sculpt looks. Sadly, he doesn't come with an interchangeable pair of hands, and I kind of wish that he did, but overall, I guess it's just a minor qualm. He does come with, however, this really cool looking symbiotic sword, and I mean, this has got to be one of the coolest looking swords I've ever seen them produce. You can see how we've kind of got the black symbiote with the red sections over the top. That just looks so nicely done, and these are actually individual strands, so it's not just one grouped blocked together sculpt. There is actually some distinctiveness to these pieces, and overall I think it looks awesome as we actually take it out of the hand. As you guys can see, the handle too has got a nice wrap around it, and overall, yeah, definitely a really cool looking accessory. Now as we come back here to KNULL, you can see kind of the ruins here for the lower section of the skirt piece. I think this looks really impressive, much like what we've got here with the biceps. The thighs also have been sculpted beautifully. I really like the musculature detail that we've got here. The definition in the sculpt looks great. We get some awesome looking knee pads, and the shin armor also looks so nicely done. Much like the shoulder pads, we've got various different dents and dangs in the sculpt just to make it look weathered and worn. So overall, yeah, this is definitely a really formidable looking character and awesome sculpt, and I think that this has definitely been worth the wait, as had they released this a few years back, I'm almost certain certain that it wouldn't have turned out as great as what we're seeing here. Now, articulation wise, I was actually pleasantly surprised. So here at the head, we do get a double ball peg at both the head and the neck, so this can look up roughly to that far. It's slightly restricted due to the design of the hair, but it can look down to a great range. It can also tilt left to right as well as rotate the full 360. I love how the shoulder pads actually rotate alongside the shoulder itself. They are a separate piece, but with some of the robot enhanced design Transformers figures, 9 times out of 10 the shoulder piece does stay fixed into place and the arm rotates, and it just looks really strange. But with this figure, it does actually move in accordance with the main shoulder, and I think that is just so nicely done. We also do get a hinge joint out to the side, full rotation at the bicep, as well as a double joint here at the elbow. The hands can rotate the full 360 as well as hinge back and forth, whereas with this one, considering that he does hold the sword, it does tilt up and down, which I think is fantastic. The torso is slightly limited due to the chest piece, so you can get a decent crunch going forwards. Personally, I would lift this piece up just to prevent it from actually bashing into the belt, so we do get an adequate range of motion. I do wish it was slightly more dynamic, but considering just how layered he is, I imagine that would have been pretty impossible to do. He can crunch back to that far, which surprisingly is better than the forward range, and he does rotate here at the waist on a very slight indented ratchet joint. At the hips, he can kick forwards, I'd say roughly to 90 if you really push it. The skirt piece is made out of a PVC material. He can also kick back, I want to say roughly to that far, and that is me really forcing it. He can also go out to the sides, rotate at the thigh, as well as has pinless tech here for the knees, but these do have a double joint, so a great range where that's concerned. And finally here for the foot, this can pivot forwards, backwards, as well as can also rock side to side. So overall, definitely a pretty decently articulated figure. I do just personally wish that we could have got a slightly better, more dynamic range here out of the mid-torso. Now, in addition to the symbiotic sword, he also does include an alternate head sculpt. This one's slightly more stoic, a little more neutral and generic, but just as formidable looking. You can see the sculpt work on that is actually really impressive, and the precision of the paint apps for the eyes looks great. So yeah, overall that's looking just as good as the almost grinning sinister head sculpt that we've already got attached. And just to showcase how this looks on the figure, we simply pop that one off, bring this one in, and it really does just drastically alter and change the look for this guy. So yeah, this one's looking to be a really nice addition to the collection. Now, as we take a look at some comparisons, here we have our new 2-pack Venom compared alongside Carnage, which I believe was originally released alongside the movie Venom, just so you can see roughly how these guys scale with one another. Here he is alongside the recently released retro-carded Ben Reilly Spider-Man, just so you guys can see how he compares alongside a more standard 6-inch scaled figure. Here we have Knull alongside Carnage, the Ben Reilly Spider-Man, and finally his packmate, that being Venom. And so, some final thoughts with this newly released Marvel Legends King in Black 2-pack. Overall, I think both of these figures for the most part are pretty nicely done. Besides that QC issue that I had with one of the alternate heads for Venom, overall the quality control seems to be pretty on point for the most part with the paint apps. I think the Venom figure is great for those of you who already previously owned that 2018 movie Venom. Then for the most part you'll know exactly what to expect in terms of the body mold, but it's a great reuse of the mold. I really do like the comic accurate chest piece that we've got going on, and the alternate heads are really nicely sculpted. I do think the biggest draw for this figure are the inclusion of those massive bat wings. Those things look incredible and pretty insane, and the fact that Venom actually is using the bat wings in itself is just really crazy. They've got a pretty decent range of articulation in them. I maybe would have liked to have seen the wings have been able to come closer into the body. If you push past a certain point, they do become very easily detached, but in all, a really cool looking figure. I do think the articulation on that Venom for the most part is top notch, besides the absence of some proper butterfly joints. And then when we come to Knull, the figure is just pretty much flawless. The sculpt work looks insane. I think the head sculpt is amazing. The paint apps all appear to be pretty much on point. The symbiotic sword that he comes with is great. The only area of critique that I have with him is that I maybe wish we could have got a slightly better, more dynamic range out of that torso, so that he could have perhaps crunched forwards ever so slightly further. But in the grand scheme of things, that really is just a minor critique. And then sadly, we turn to the elephant in the room, and that's the fact that this set, at least here in the UK, is priced at £75 for 2 figures. Now granted, these are a little bigger when in comparison to your average 6-inch figure, but I really do think these have been slightly overpriced, and had these been more around the 60, 55 mark, then I think this would have been a lot better value for your money. So if you really can wait, definitely try and hold out for them to go on sale or perhaps clearance. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these guys down in the comment section below. Of course, be sure to let me know on what you guys thought of the review, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.